Give the floor to Ms. Reem Alsalem for her concluding remarks. Madam, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you very much again to all states, national human rights organizations and NGOs who have taken the floor, and for your strong engagement on the report and its recommendations. In the time left, I would like to specifically address 2 issues relating to parental alienation. One is in response to the statement made by the honorable delegate from Russia. The recommendation on the Hague Convention is a recommendation. It's an important recommendation, however, given that in the current application of the Hague Convention, a child can and is returned in many cases to their abusers. Of course, we cannot elaborate in 10,700 words on all aspects relating to this, but as you will appreciate, this, as any other form of violence against women and girls, cuts across institutions and rights and conventions, and therefore it is legitimate to make recommendations to all actors that are relevant. I would also like to address the very legitimate point that has been made by Russia, Lebanon, and I know also a number of NGOs that have contacted the mandate, including fathers' associations, which is that, of course, parental alienation is sometimes invoked or used unfairly or misused against fathers. The reality is, though, which the report tried to highlight, is that it is predominantly used and invoked against mothers. And it is invoked as a tool during child custody proceedings precisely to divert attention from the history of domestic violence or abuse, either against the mother and the child. And we know that the majority of domestic violence and intimate partner violence is male violence in its nature or in its most predominant form. I also would like to address the objections that I had received also from a number of organizations about me concurring that parental alienation is not a scientific concept, and that the point of departure for the analysis of the information was indeed that it is not a scientific theory, as per not the mandate really, the medical, psychiatric and psychological associations that are experts on this. There are, of course, many parents, both men and women, who lose contact with their children post-separation because the court places custody with a parent and that parent therefore cuts off all contact with the other parent, or because that parent in a joint custody proceeding then also forces the children not to have contact with the other parent. And so I understand very much that many mothers and fathers feel, therefore, that because they go through this reality, parental alienation is not a pseudo concept and that it is very real. And of course, through this report, I do not wish to minimize their experience of suffering and the realness of the situation that they are going through. All I'm trying to say here is that we cannot put this reality under the label of parental alienation, because that reality that I just described is part of a continuum of coercive control that is being levied within a particular context from one partner to another, and also it has to be seen also again in context of the wider dynamics in a family or a former family unit. So we have to find a different name other than the label of parental alienation to describe this kind of post-separation abuse that I've just described. The other issue is there are also others who have said, including fathers' organizations, that there are situations where children reject a parent or resist contacting them, and therefore that this is parental alienation. However, once again, the information that we have available and that I did not have time to elaborate on in the report is that we cannot attribute this to any scientific tool, or including the concept of parental alienation, because of course in high conflict separations, one or both parents may try to influence their children to take their sides. However, there is no scientific way to attribute this to any specific action by any of the parents. The children themselves may actually take their own decisions, and the research demonstrates that when a partner or a parent puts pressure on a child in order to alienate them from or to remove them from another parent, usually that child turns against the parent that is trying to put pressure on them. So this is to say that there is really no proof that actions by that parent result in the kind of estrangement that is solicited. I also want to very briefly come back to the point raised by the Lutheran World Federation. I regret that I didn't receive actually a lot of information from any actors on transgender parents and how the invoking parental alienation affects them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Special